Good morning, everyone. Thanks so much for joining me this morning for our webinar on customer service effects on social media. My name is Kristy Bailey. I am an advisor and presenter for Business Station as part of the ASBAS program. This webinar that we're going to go through today is designed to be interactive. So if you want to ask me questions at any time, I would really encourage you to do so. Just type your questions into the Q&A functionality. And if I can answer them then and there, I most certainly will. We will also have a little bit of free time at the end to allow for questions as well. So keep that in mind. Now, in terms of what we're going to go over today, we do have a lot to go through and only an hour to do it. But we're going to look at the suggestion today that customer service is a single interaction, whereas customer experience incorporates the entire customer journey. So we'll look at the customer journey itself, and we'll understand that whole customer experience process. We'll look at some dimensions of customer service, first impressions. We'll look at handling complaints effectively, and then upselling as strategies to really improve that customer experience. We'll then talk about social media and that critical link between each customer interaction and social media. So throughout the webinar today, you'll discover how important customer interactions are for your online presence and what you can do to generate that positive word of mouth from each and every customer that you have. Okay. Now, in terms of customer service and customer experience management, there is a little bit of a difference between the two. Customer service is a single touch point with a brand at that moment that your customer is in front of you, whereas customer experience impacts feelings and emotion and encompasses that entire customer journey. So customer experience is really defined by the interactions and experiences that your customer has with your business throughout that entire customer journey. And that really starts from the very first point of contact right through to them becoming a happy and hopefully a loyal customer. Your job as a business owner or as a marketer is to understand the whole customer experience process and to really look at the critical link between each customer interaction that is unique to your business. And for the purpose of today's session, specifically looking at how social media fits into the customer experience. So rather than customer service sitting alone, we really need to consider your job to be customer experience management. Now, customer experience, I believe, has to be a top priority for all businesses, in particular small business. And the reason is very simple. Companies that focus on customer experience reduce turnover of customers and they greatly increase revenues. And that, of course, leads to higher profits. And generally speaking, that's the ultimate goal for businesses. So successful customer experience management, you need to have that 360-degree view of your customers, and you have to have integrated and up-to-date data on them. That data will allow you to really understand customers. It'll allow you to create a customer journey map. So really map out those touch points that you have with your customers at every stage of the life cycle. You'll be able to develop an emotional connection to your brand, or allow them to develop an emotional connection to your brand and capture their feedback to track satisfaction and track your results, how you're going. Now, implementing a social media strategy in your customer service model will give you that chance to communicate with customers. And that happens at various stages of their life cycle, but it really makes sure that they feel part of your story, which then encourages them to recommend your brand to others. So it really encourages them to be more of an advocate. Now, an interesting stat to keep in mind is that 1 in 3 customers will leave a brand that they love after just one bad experience. So customers on the flip side that rate companies with a higher customer experience, so let's say a 9 or a 10 out of 10 in terms of their experience, will spend a lot more, so up to about 140% more, and they'll remain loyal for several years. So that's really the ultimate goal that we're trying to get to here. Okay, so we're going to look at the actual customer journey, and what you see on the screen is a typical customer journey map. It may vary business to business, and that really depends on the nature of your business. But this map that you see in front of you will give you an idea on how the customer journey may look. To map the journey for your own business, I would highly encourage you to do that, but you really need to think about and visualize each and every touch point that you have with your future and with your current clients. So really think about each step of interaction, and that starts with that initial step of when the customer discovers your product or service. As you may know, that might happen online. It doesn't even have to be a physical interaction with them. So really think about that. And as you essentially map out the journey before you then design their customer experience. So on the diagram here, you can see online interactions at the top area of the screen and the more traditional offline interactions at the bottom. Interestingly, you'll see social media just here at the end towards the advocacy phase. But when you start thinking about social media reviews, that word of mouth via social media, online ads that you might see on social, it actually pops up more than just at the end. You really will see social media integrated throughout the entire customer journey. So just to go into the journey itself, it typically starts with awareness and consideration. The first stages of the customer journey really are the awareness and consideration, and these are absolutely crucial to adding people into your sales funnel. Customers read reviews and testimonials. They'll then compare their experience with you to their expectations of what they thought you might be like, but also with their experiences with other companies. So in here, if you have customers asking questions, a really quick response time will leave a very lasting positive impression. Thinking about that, if you have a customer that's just found your product through an ad perhaps or through a search, it looks like your product will meet their needs or solve a problem that they might have, but they have a question, there's something that they need to know from you, they're going to need that answer very quickly. That quick response time will keep them with you as opposed to going off to a competitor. The next stage of the customer journey is conversion or purchase. Now, this part of the journey is really crucial because it deepens that customer relationship with your business. Now, it's also where leads or potential customers decide that your products are going to be the best fit for their needs. And if they get to that point, they'll buy something. Now, the quicker people can get to that point with the fewer barriers, the better it is for you. We don't want to create any friction in that stage. We want them to be able to very smoothly and easily transact and get through to that purchase stage. Then you've got retention. Now, with retention, it's not enough to spend your marketing energy getting new customers, so getting them into just making a purchase. Retention is absolutely key. You need to engage with customers once they've purchased something to keep them coming back. So if your customers stop hearing from you, or if you stop helping them, or if they stop getting value from your product or from your company throughout any stage of their life cycle, then you risk making that life cycle a lot shorter. Now, high retention helps to really drive further customer acquisition, and it does so more organically. Now, that can really be pushed along with the help of referral programs or other incentives to get customers back, like rewards programs. To get customers to share about you, you'll need to engage with them, and you'll need to remind them of the value that you offer to them and of the increased benefits that they can get by sharing their experience with other people. That will then lead them into hopefully becoming advocates. Now, advocacy really comes with satisfied customers that you remain engaged with, so that you continually engage with throughout all stages of their life cycle. Now, 83% of satisfied customers say that they're willing to share or to refer to their network of friends and family if they're satisfied. So you want every customer to be an advocate and to be sharing their positive experiences. There's a large component of advocacy that sits with social media, so keep that in mind. And that's why you see it there above advocacy, but it really does pop up throughout that entire customer journey. Now, the other thing you need to keep in mind is that customer expectations are on the rise, and they're going to continue to grow. And that forces companies to continually reinvent themselves, basically in order to survive, but to keep looking at what you're doing, what you're offering your customers. There is a lot of availability of multiple products and services under different brands. There's lots of offers, and people have things readily available to them through the internet, to being able to purchase and seek information online. Especially social media, it's really given greater control over to the customer in decision making, because they can reach out to hundreds, if not thousands of people that may have experienced your product or service and get their feedback as well. Okay, now looking at customer needs and expectations. A key way to really improve the customer journey is to really understand your customers. You have to remember that not all customers are the same, and that means they won't need or expect the same things when they're purchasing your products or services. Everyone will have different needs and expectations, and that's because they fall into different categories. They will differ by their age, their social background, their economic background, their cultural background. They may have special interests or other considerations like physical or mental abilities that differ from one another. So to successfully meet needs and expectations of your customers, you really have to know your audience. You have to establish a very clear picture of who exactly and specifically your audience is. Now that requires going beyond basic demographic information like age, gender, and location. That stuff is important, but we need to know more. You have to have a very clear picture of your target market. Now, to make sure that you're reaching the right buyers, you have this clear idea of who your ideal buyers are. It's really important to recognize then that your ideal customers might not be who you think they are. So fortunately, you can determine who they are by analyzing your existing customer base, by doing a lot of research, internal and external research. Have a look at, if you're doing internal research, what traits correlate with things like repeat purchases, what segments tend to become long-term loyal customers, or what potential new customers are there based on research that's readily available to you through the Australian Bureau of Statistics or other specific industry groups. There is a lot of consumer data out there, so make sure that you're really drawing on it to understand trends and other statistics that will really impact who your customer base is. Once you understand who they are, always look for new ways to meet their needs as a customer. Once you've identified the most valuable audience and what it is that they're looking for, your goal should be to really look at ways that you can better meet their needs and have a look at your product or service and make sure it is meeting their needs. The really key thing here is that you should never, ever expect an audience to change their expectations to fit your product or service. It should be the other way around. Your product or service should be continually evolving to match changing consumer needs. If you've developed a customer-centric culture, so if you have really focused on engaging your employees to make sure that they understand that the customers are at the center of each decision they make, obviously set clear standards for your team, you will really hit the mark from a customer service perspective. It could mean you're looking at your hiring, looking at your training, or if it's you that are in the customer service realm yourself, having a look at your performance, your hours, and that kind of thing. Your support team or your customer service team has a major impact on whether your company meets or exceeds customer expectations. So keep that in mind as well. Now, customer service, as we've mentioned, it really is at the core of everything we've discussed so far. Now, there are 3 dimensions of customer service, and they all really interlink. So first of all, you've got human dimensions. Now, this relates to body language. It could be attitudes. It'll be how motivated staff are, or concerningly, how motivated they potentially aren't. Then you've got your business dimensions. Now, this is looking at your processes and procedures. Of course, your product offering. So is your product up to scratch, and is it meeting the needs of your customers? Your staff knowledge is really important of specific functions within your business and of your product and or service, and how you deliver that product or service is really important as well. Then you've got hidden dimensions. Now, hidden dimensions are the underlying things in a business. So what's going on behind the scenes that could be impacting customer service? Now, this could be things like business policies. It could be technical issues that you may be experiencing. There could be pressure on staff due to limited staff resources. They could have differing levels of empowerment, the quality of working relationships. So how are your staff getting on with each other? And of course, it can be staff bringing home problems to work. So it's really important to identify and have your staff understand that there can be hidden dimensions. Now, what we want to do from a customer service perspective is looking at the analogy of how calm a duck looks on a lake or a pond, but under the water, their legs are going like crazy. So we want to sort of simulate that kind of thing from a customer service perspective. We don't want any of those hidden dimensions to affect our customer service at all, but understand that they could be going on and really identifying them as well. Now, in terms of the 3 dimensions of customer service, they are really important to know for both frontline staff and you as business owners or managers. Research says that if you align the 3 dimensions, it will equate to excellent customer service. So making sure that you have identified them, understand them, and have them aligned. Now, good customer service is absolutely critical to success in all businesses, no matter what your product or service is, and it can really elevate you well above your competition, particularly if you've got a lot of competition in the specific industry that you're in. If there's no way to differentiate your product or the product or service that you're selling, but your customer service is the differentiation, then, like I said, it can really elevate you above your competition. Make sure you use the mantra to under-promise and over-deliver. It will really improve your customer retention rate. Now, and consider that if your customers are frustrated by the service that they receive, they're more likely to rate that service poorly. So have a look at your reviews online. Have a look at any social media. You can have Google reviews, obviously Facebook reviews. There could be Yelp, Zomato, TripAdvisor. There's a range of different ways people can review your product or service. Make sure that you are looking at your reviews, that you've had a look at what the general customer sentiment is, and also consider what your responses have been. Are you responding to all reviews, positive and negative, because they're both as important as each other? If you've got people negatively reviewing, it's really important that you diplomatically respond to those and address any concerns customers might have, because there is a huge pool of potential customers that will be reading that. It's also equally as important to acknowledge positive reviews. People are reaching out to you, trying to give you compliments or acknowledge your good customer service. It's really important at that point that you're able to liaise with them. That will keep them, if you start talking to them, it will keep them retain or in that retention phase for longer, and hopefully they'll go on to become advocates. So in terms of how you improve customer service to ensure that you have that good retention rate and ultimately have those brand advocates, there are a few key areas that we'll go over, but we'll start with first impressions. Now, the customer journey really does start with first impressions. It's so important that you get it right. Each and every person interacts with the business for the same reason, and that's to solve a need or a want and to feel good when they're doing it. So first impressions are made in the initial 3 to 7 seconds of meeting. Now, think about a first impression and go back a step. That could actually be an online engagement. So it will be even less than 3 to 7 seconds. We might develop a first impression on a website within 1 to 2 seconds of hitting that site. So have a look at your website. Does it speak as highly of your business as it should? Does it sell your business as it should? Because that, in a lot of cases, is the first impression. Other things that form a first impression, when people get to being with you in a face-to-face sense, your environment or your venue and the presentation of that. Now, your environment can include the visual presentation. It could be the smell. It could be temperature. It could be the music that you have or the general atmosphere that you've created. So keep in mind, you have to be consistent with the brand that you're trying to create. And going back a step, that has to match your target audience. So we see this in retail. The big retailers do it very well. If you've got a target audience that is aimed at younger people, let's say, a fashion type brand, you'll have busy stores with a lot of things going on, loud music, younger people serving customers, that kind of thing. So that is speaking directly to a specific target market. Have a look at your business and make sure that you are too. I sort of tied into that there, but your own or your staff's personal image, again, it has to meet the values and the needs of your specific target audience. Your target audience has to feel comfortable liaising with that person that's on the front line. The local language that you use, whether or not you use slang or how you speak, is really important. And again, speaking as you would to your target audience or in a way that meets the needs of your target audience. Now, if your target audience is an international market, then obviously using slang isn't going to translate at all. But even if it's an English-speaking market, just think about how you speak and the behaviour around the tone that you use, as well as the actual words that you use. Your body language is really important, extremely important. Smiling is really important, and so is acknowledgement. So acknowledgement is absolutely crucial to customer service. Now, there is an interesting 15 and 10 rule that Disney have. Now, the Disney concept is that if a customer is within 15 feet of a customer service person, which is about 4.5 meters, they have to acknowledge that customer with at least a smile. And now, if that customer then is within 10 feet of the customer service agent, which is about 3.5 meters, they have to smile and verbally acknowledge the customer with something along the lines of "hello, how can I help you" type thing. So I think that's absolutely key. Acknowledging someone, making them feel good, will create that really lasting first impression. You might even engage with them and start talking about the weather, their kids, some other things. Showing that positive attitude towards them is really important, or in the right cases, empathy towards them is really, really crucial as well. They might have just come in the door and are soaking wet because it's been raining. What sort of language do you use and how do you engage with them in that sense? So although it seems basic, first impressions are absolutely crucial. It's so important that we get it right. That acknowledgement side of things, at the very least, is really important. And I find that a lot now, just as a consumer going to different businesses. Sometimes you go into a coffee shop and someone's tucked behind a large coffee machine, so you don't get any acknowledgement because their physical surroundings are stopping them from acknowledging you. Or there might be other cases where people are just getting extremely busy, so they don't look up to acknowledge you. And we all have that peripheral vision, so that acknowledgement is sort of expected by consumers. So have a look at your business and your surrounds and how you are, what are you doing to really encourage those positive first impressions. So the next side of things that we're going to look at from a customer service perspective is complaint handling. Virtually everyone will have to deal with a customer complaint at some point in their career. Now, it could be something as simple as getting an order slightly wrong, or there could be a major business error, but how you handle that complaint makes all the difference. So I like to look at this LEARN format. I think that's a really great format to follow. Now, as an acronym, that stands for LISTEN. So listen to the customer's concern without interrupting them. Empathize, so be sympathetic to them, tell them that you understand where they're coming from. Now, this becomes really important in the sense that we talk about hidden dimensions. Sometimes customers have hidden dimensions and they might be making complaints, just they're having a bad day, so they're complaining about things. So empathy at that point is really important without being defensive. Apologies may be appropriate, so you do have to apologize if it is suitable and appropriate. Sometimes you might just apologize that the customer is feeling the way that they're feeling. A reaction is really important. So a reaction is the point where you evaluate different solutions. What can you do to solve the customer's issue, and you provide them with some of those solutions. Then the notify or the follow-up part is also equally as important as all of the rest. Now, this is after you offer them a solution or provide some kind of solution to their complaint that they've had. You need to personally check with them to make sure that they're satisfied. At this point, they may not be, so you might need to sort of start this process again. But I think if you don't follow them up or notify of what's, where they're at, and allow them to notify you, then you can really get stuck in a trap where you've done everything right, you think you've provided the right solution, but it hasn't actually satisfied the customer. So you haven't been able to turn that complaint around into a positive. So that's the point where you can get people that are extremely dissatisfied through to almost being, to being brand advocates. And you do see that a lot of the time to really turn around, particularly on social media. You see a lot of a lot of reviews where people will explain a situation that a customer service person has really turned it around, and therefore they've gone to the effort of leaving a positive review. Now, I always look at those and think, oh, that could have quite easily been a negative review, but through that great customer service, they've been able to turn it around. All right, so another way to really improve customer service, but also to improve your revenues, is suggestive selling. Now, if you haven't heard of it before, you've most likely been a recipient of it, but suggestive selling is a sales technique where the employee or the customer service agent asks the customer if they'd like to include an additional purchase, or they recommend a specific product that might suit the client. So suggestive selling is used to increase the purchase amount of the client and therefore increase the revenues of the business. But it does translate into good customer service, because the customer service person has to know the customer and their products and services quite well to be able to offer that extension in products or services or that addition to what they've already purchased. So that's why it is fantastic from a customer service perspective, but the benefits as a small business are huge as well. So how do you do it? Well, basically incorporate a feature and a benefit into the conversation. So a feature is something about the product or service. The benefit is what it means for the customer. So as a customer service representative or agent, think about what you can offer the customer that links the two. So what is in it for the customer? Your greeting is a really key way to find out what the customer really wants. Hi, how are you today? How's your day been? You know, what are you celebrating a special occasion? So all of those kind of open-ended questions will really allow you to understand a little bit more about the customer and therefore what feature you can give them based on what you know about them. So an open-ended question is designed to encourage a full and meaningful answer using your own knowledge and or feelings and drawing on what the customer is going through or what you know about the customer. What you want to avoid is the dreaded no word. An open-ended question is the opposite of a closed-ended question. A closed-ended question is meant to elicit a single word response. So you do not want that single word response. So things like tell me what you have in mind, what's the occasion, as I mentioned, now that definitely leads to an upselling opportunity. You know, what kind of products and services do you enjoy? You know, insert your product or service there. Or what are you most looking forward to about this experience, or something along those lines. If you ask things like, I see this in a restaurant all the time, and I had it literally on Saturday night where I was at a restaurant. I didn't really feel like dessert because I had had a very satisfying meal. So when the waiter came over to the table and he said, do you want some dessert? Our immediate answer was no. Another strategy and for suggestive selling could have been to give us the dessert menu without actually asking us if we wanted to see it. Now, emotionally, what we read on there could have really enticed us to purchase the dessert rather than going on more of the factual information about, you know, we're feeling full, we don't want it. So think about that. I would also encourage staff to share their own experiences. And again, you see this a lot in customer service where someone might ask you, what product do you prefer? And I also had that the other day when I said to someone at a store, I said, oh, which of these two would you go for? I couldn't decide between two things. Now they said, I don't know. And that wasn't really good from a customer service perspective. It made me feel like A, that person didn't know their own products or services. And B, they couldn't upsell me because they weren't even attempting to. So I actually walked out of that particular store without buying anything. So keep that in mind. It can have a really positive effect in terms of increasing revenues, but it can also have a really negative effect when your staff don't know and aren't able to share their own experiences. So suggestive selling really does improve customer service, and that in turn leads to a more positive experience that's highly likely to translate into higher retention, stronger advocacy, and a lot of that is going to go online, particularly onto social media. So keep that in mind. Thinking about, you know, a very easy way to train your staff on this is think about some key items that you offer. So when a customer orders a particular product, you can offer them an additional product. So that really basic stuff you can train your staff in. So think about your business and what sort of suggestive selling and upselling opportunities there might be. Okay, so how does that customer journey fit with and relate to the social media space? Well, first of all, having a look at what social media is. It's any website or application that enables users to create and share content or to participate in social networking sites like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. There's a range of different social sharing sites. You have to keep in mind that social media is a lot more than just a messaging and acquisition channel for you to obtain customers. It also really impacts your SEO, so your search engine optimization. I will expand a little bit more on that in a minute, and keep in mind we do have webinars on the SEO because it's a topic in itself, but I will touch on it from a social perspective shortly. Before I do, we'll have a look at the reasons social media is so important. Now, 88% of people are influenced by reviews and online comments. So that is a huge number of people that may never, ever get to your business or experience your product or service because of what they read online. So thinking about that, have you actually harnessed the strength of social media? And have you looked at what your reviews are doing at the moment? Now, keep in mind that customers can review you on platforms that you don't actually have management control over yet. So there could be Google reviews sitting out there, and if you haven't claimed your Google listing, you don't actually get an alert when someone leaves a review. So there could be a lot going on online that you're potentially not aware of. Now, social pressure can very quickly tarnish your brand as quickly as you're trying to grow it. Keep in mind, fingertips are always on the move. People have social media very, very readily available. It could be that you're waiting in line and disgruntled about, a service that you're receiving, so you can just let your friends know on Facebook, or it could be, if you've enjoyed your stay at a hotel, you go and review it on TripAdvisor, or there's blog sites that people can actively write, big stories about products they've purchased. Social media has really played a very key role in the power shift to your customers. So if you think about how immensely connected the world has become since the introduction of social media, if you've had a bad experience, everyone can know about it if you want them to. But on the flip side of that, if you want to praise a business, you can also let them know about it. You can even post a video review on YouTube or Instagram or even Facebook. There's a lot of ways that you can review that go outside of just leaving a review on a business's own channels. The risks of social media can also greatly affect your reputation. So it's absolutely crucial that you incorporate it into your customer service model and into your customer journey. Now, social media can also very positively impact customer service and your customer, the general feeling towards your business by customers. Your job is to have a look at where and how those social interactions fit into your customer journey, and make sure that you're really maximizing your efforts at all of those stages to be a part of any conversations that are going on. Also listen to the feedback that you're getting for your customers. And some tips on doing so are, first of all, to reap the benefits of two-way brand engagement. So customers absolutely love it when businesses share information, they share tips or ideas, sometimes even a bit of humorous banter across social media. Our customers also love to send a message out to their favorite brands over social channels, or reach out to them and get really excited when you respond back. So that two-way engagement on social media is a really good way to build your brand loyalty and to help give your company its own voice and its own personality. Consider social media an extension of your contact info as well. So today, consumers expect a response to their comments or concern within minutes or hours, not days. Social media lets people or customers really effortlessly reach out to you without getting stuck on hold or waiting for an email response or anything like that. They don't want to go through a lot of hassle to get a response from you, or even just to find your phone number. So they'll pop a message on, or even pop a comment on your post. Now, I see it quite often that organisations will post something on social media, people will start to interact with them, but they don't answer questions about their product or service. So they're sort of posting, and maybe you are scheduling posts or something along those lines. And then when the post is going live, you're not actually on social media to be able to respond, but it can sort of feel like you've walked away from the conversation if you do that. Now, social media also allows you to really nip complaints in the bud, and a top recommendation is that you do so very quickly. Remember that if you avoid social media, it's not going to stop customers from speaking up if they've got a complaint. If you've got a presence on social channels, at least you'll know about any issues and can address them really quickly to get ahead of any particular emerging situation. Now, studies show that 70% of brands on social outlets respond to customer complaints within the first 12 hours. So you've got to really quickly get onto that. If you're not there to do it, there might be other customers that will, and you see that get out of hand quite a lot. A customer will leave a complaint, the brand doesn't respond, so more customers get on. You might even find your competitors join in on the conversation and try and pick up the slack. You have to make sure that you've got your contact details listed so that you can, or provide them your contact details so you can take it offline if and when that's appropriate. And so that they've got that quick access to you as well. Now, another tip is to spot trends on or before they occur. You should really keep your ear to the ground and pay very close attention to what customers are talking about, particularly on social media, in order to spot trends. So there's a lot of information. There's a lot of your competitors that will be on social media. Are you following all of those pages? Are you tracking what their customers are saying as well as what your customers are saying? Obviously, you've got a lot of analytical information that you can use as part of your monthly reporting and that kind of thing as well. But I'd be looking at monitoring hashtags. I would be looking at following your competitors' pages, really get a head start on providing customers what they want. You can spot trends very, very quickly, look at your product or service and maybe develop something around what these trends might be. Social media really gives you additional access to your customers. So it is another access point. Social media channels shouldn't be about advertising or only advertising. Obviously, there's an element of advertising and there is specific social media advertising, but in your organic posts, it's really not the right medium for a sales campaign. There's nothing to stop you sharing the odd offer or deal, just as long as it doesn't represent the majority of your content. So keep in mind that 80-20 rule. So 80% of the time, it should be sharing information, tips, ideas, across social media, and then 20% of the time it can be something sales focused. So that's absolutely fine. Now, in terms of increasing your sales in the long term through social media activities, you have to be prepared to use that channel for customer service and customer interactions as well. So it is about engagement, and that's what you're looking for. You're not looking for posts that are going to get the most likes and no engagement. You want that open conversation with your customers. It's absolutely crucial that there's that two-way engagement. Now, in terms of social media sending signals, I did touch on it earlier. Social media can very positively impact your SEO, so your search engine optimization, which is how well your website ranks when someone searches specific terms. So not only do social media interactions affect what your customer and what you see, but it affects what you do behind the scenes and how well you come up in those searches. Now, because so much sharing takes place on major social platforms, those social signals have in recent years become more and more important to search engines like Google and affect your search engine optimization. Now, social signals refer to a web page's collective shares, likes, and comments. So the overall social media visibility as perceived by search engines. Those activities can contribute to your page's organic search ranking, and they're seen as another form of citation or another form of authority. So similar to backlinks. If you have a strategy that's designed to increase your social media engagement, it will also raise your website search engine ranking. So keep that in mind. It has great benefits from a customer service perspective, from an engagement perspective, and then obviously SEO. So if you're looking to raise your search rankings, and if that's a strategy within your business, then a comprehensive social media plan is definitely in order, in addition to all of the other SEO tactics that you're probably implementing as well. Now, ways that you can increase your social signals. So first and foremost, strong content is obviously key. The content has to be valuable. It has to be entertaining and informative, and that's always going to get a more positive reaction than blatant or spammy advertising. Now, some tried and true strategies for really increasing your social signals are to post regularly. Keep your brand at the top of social media networks by posting regularly. However, in saying that, go for quality, not quantity, because engagement is what you're after. So don't post every day for the sake of having a post every day. If you don't have something interesting, something that's going to add value to your followers, don't post it because you'll get no engagement. Now, what happens there is that the next time you post, Facebook will show your post to less people. So your engagement is really important for how many people your posts organically get shown to. It's really important for SEO, and it's really important for your customers as well, because they might stop following you if you're posting things that they don't like. So always go for engagement, quality over quantity, but try and post regularly. Now, using images is really important. Images greatly increase interaction rates for all social media types. So any just plain text posts aren't going to do very well. So images that are engaging, that are interesting, perhaps funny, depending on your brand voice and who your target audience is. With your images, obviously make sure that you've got the rights to post them. If you're reposting someone's content, you have to obviously, of course, credit in the original photographer or the original poster. Now, listen to what people are saying about your brands. And I will talk about that again in a little bit more detail. But when you can hear what people are saying about your brand, you're able to respond to critique. You have to do so in a constructive way. So make sure that there is no defensiveness in any of your responses. If there is any critique, I would thank people for posting their feedback and engage with them in that sense. Definitely monitor what's being said about your business. As I mentioned, look at hashtags, there could be social media monitoring apps that track shares, tracks retweets, likes, or keywords associated with your brand. So have a look at that as well. And make sure you consider all social media platforms. You don't have to cover all social media bases. But again, knowing your target market in depth will allow you to know what platforms they are on. So I would only be where your customers are and produce content for those top social media sites that are relevant to your target audience. So really focus your efforts. Let's say, for example, you've got a very clearly defined target market. You know 100% they are not on Pinterest, and there might be the odd customer that is, but you wouldn't spend time, energy, and focus any efforts on Pinterest if it's not where your consumer base is. You might choose just a couple of different platforms, which could be Snapchat or TikTok or Facebook. But knowing your target market will know exactly, that will allow you to know exactly where they are from a social media perspective, and you can focus your content on those top social media sites that are relevant to them. Now, so in order to be active on channels and encourage engagement, you have to support social media in your business. Now, this becomes a bit of a cycle, and there's 3 elements to engaging with your customers on social media. First of all, you have to listen. You have to listen online and you have to listen offline. Now, online, you can use social media monitoring tools that I mentioned, that they track mentions, shares, likes, competitors, keywords, that kind of thing. You can also monitor socials yourself through spending time on social channels, following competitors, following similar brands, perhaps even in other countries. There are also web monitoring tools. You can use, obviously, your own analytics to look at what people are doing and what sort of people are following your pages. Import your data into your own reporting so that you can track on your results month on month as well, and actively track what's going on and compare your results. Set some benchmarks or some KPIs and have a look at it through listening. Talking is really important. Talking with pictures, with media releases, engaging with customers on social media, engaging with influencers, perhaps writing blogs or participating in or adding value to other blogs or community pages, and obviously social networks. So make sure that you are there and part of the conversation. Talk back to people when they talk to you. Now, supporting is the 3rd element, and that's directing people to channels where they can talk to you. So providing links to your social media channels, telling people what social media channels you'd like them to post on, to use particular hashtags, for example. Advertise those channels offline, advertise them online. It could be something as simple as putting them on your email signature or on your website. Communicate them verbally when people are with you. Now, let's say you've got people that come in like a restaurant type scenario, and you see them taking photos of food. You might encourage them to use your hashtag to be featured on your page. So really encourage guests when they're offline to engage with you online. That will give you something to listen to. So you'll be able to see their photos, listen to their feedback, look at how people are using your product or service, and that'll give you somewhere to talk back to them. So it becomes that 3-way cycle. You need to support them so that you've got somewhere to listen to them and you can talk back to them. So consider all 3 elements in supporting social media. Okay, so going back to the customer journey, If you have a look here, social media and what we've gone through today, social media is an absolutely crucial part of this journey. It really allows you to improve your customer service, and it sort of forces you to improve your customer service because you know people are going to go online. Once they do go online onto social media, you can engage with your customers, and you can engage with them before they've ever purchased anything from you or well after they've purchased something from you. You can provide real-time responses to any questions that they've got. Through listening, through talking and supporting in a social media space, you really enhance that advocacy component of the customer journey, but also enhance brand awareness, which means you'll become visible when your customer begins their journey. Remember, those advocates are going to lead to new business. So that awareness and consideration part of the funnel is going to really fill up because of our brand advocates. Now, keep in mind, a lot of businesses focus their efforts on those first 3 stages of the journey: awareness, consideration, getting people through to that purchase phase. Now, that's a hugely missed opportunity because the last 2 stages, loyalty or retention and advocacy, will bring you the most high value customers who, in a lot of cases, will actually send even more great business your way. So map out, I would highly encourage you to map out your own customer journey, look at all those touch points, and look at how you're doing in each of those stages of the journey and what the customer perception is. Okay, so that is it for me. So that's our session on customer service effects on social media. I hope it makes sense to you, and I hope there are some things that you can take out of this to improve, or at the very least to better understand that connection between what happens face-to-face with your customers and what happens online. Now, I'm going to stay online now and answer any questions that you might have. So please feel free to type them into the Q&A or to the chat box. But keep in mind, we've really just scratched the surface. If you do want to know more or talk about any other aspect of your business, you can always book a one-on-one appointment with me or any one of our advisors. We have about 18 advisors in WA, NT and Queensland that are available to meet with you either online via Zoom like we are now, or face-to-face by meeting them at a location that suits. Now, the new ASPAS program has just launched. For a 7-hour package, it's only $40 per business. So if you haven't registered for that, I would highly encourage you to do so. Hop online to the Business Station website and you'll find all of the details there. Definitely take advantage of this new fantastic program and get your business lifted up to the next level. So thank you again for joining me today. Like I said, I'm going to stay online now and answer any questions that you have. Feel free to shoot them through, and hopefully we get to chat again either by way of a webinar, a workshop, or perhaps even a one-on-one meeting at some stage in the future. Thank you.